Hello and welcome to BBC World News. President Trump is saying he would be willing to meet the North Korean leader despite weeks of tough talk against the Pyongyang regime. In an interview with Bloomberg, Mr. Trump said he would be honoured to meet Kim Jong-un if in the right circumstances. Meanwhile, the US military says its controversial THAAD missile defence system is operational in South Korea. 2 US strategic bombers have flown over the Korean Peninsula. Pyongyang called it reckless. Barbara Plett-Usher reports.
During the election campaign, Donald Trump said he might be willing to sit down for a burger with Kim Jong-un. But he dropped that notion of burger diplomacy after the North Korean leader declared he was working on a missile powerful enough to hit the United States.
You do what you have to do, and you don't talk about it. So when people say, well, I was asked a question yesterday, well, I mean, exactly when would you go in? At what time would you go in? I mean, it's ridiculous. I don't want to talk about it. I can say this. He's very threatening. He's a big threat to the world.
How safe are our troops that are along the demilitarized zone and our ally in South Korea? How safe are they with some of the defense systems that we've provided? And what's the status of those?
Well, nobody's safe. I mean, who's safe? The guy's got nuclear weapons. I'd like to say they're very safe. These are great, brave soldiers. These are great troops. And they know this situation. We have 28,000 troops on the line. And they're right there. And so nobody's safe. We're probably not safe over here. If he gets the long-range missiles, we're not safe either. So we have to do something about it, and we'll see what happens.
Now, after weeks of tough talk and escalating tensions, Mr. Trump has again referred to the possibility of meeting Kim Jong-un under the right circumstances. The White House spokesman, Sean Spicer, quickly clarified that conditions were definitely not right at the moment.
We've got to see their provocative behavior ratchet down immediately. There's a lot of conditions that I think would have to happen with respect to its behavior, and to show signs of good faith. Clearly, the conditions are not there right now. But I think the president's made it clear, as Secretary Tillerson had the other day, that if the circumstances present themselves, we would be prepared to. But they're clearly not at this time.
The Secretary of State Rex Tillerson has said North Korea must take concrete steps to reduce the threat of its illegal weapons programs before talks can even be considered. In the meantime, he's pressing for an international campaign to tighten economic and diplomatic pressure on North Korea while keeping open the threat of military action. But President Trump likes to keep his adversaries off balance. True to form, in the past few days he has ranged from predicting a major conflict with North Korea to describing Mr. Kim as a pretty smart cookie for holding on to power by wiping out his rivals. Barbara Plett-Usher, BBC News, Washington.
Well, joining us now is Dr. Daniel Pinkston. He is a lecturer in international relations with Troy University in the US and formerly the Northeast Asia Deputy Project Director for the International Crisis Group in Seoul. Dr. Pinkston, thank you so much for joining us. We're getting different rhetoric every day from President Trump. Is anything like a coherent strategy on North Korea emerging here?
Well, I'm not in government. I don't work for President Trump. I've never met him. I've never spoken with him. I'm only exposed to what I see in the public domain, like everyone else. So he says a lot of things. It's difficult to decipher the messaging. So it creates some confusion and some worry amongst the allies here in Northeast Asia. So anyway, people will have to speculate about it, and I don't speak for him.
Well, you talk about confusion there. I wonder how his words would be interpreted in South Korea. Would there be a reassurance that it's so far up high his agenda, or will it be creating nervousness, I wonder?
Well, many of the president's closest advisors, including Secretary of Defense Mattis, Vice President Pence, have been in the region, Secretary of State Tillerson, I think, and the president himself have issued signals of resolve towards adversaries, and they have reassured allies. However, it's been in the context of a lot of other noise and uncertain messages, so that creates a little bit of difficulty and suspicions both on the part of adversaries and allies. But as far as any kind of strategic or clear strategy towards the North, one of the problems for the U.S. is that many of the positions in the State Department, the Defense Department, and in the White House have not been filled. So many of the senior people have not even been nominated and confirmed by the Senate to fill the positions that would develop the policies and push those up to the president and the White House so they would have a clear strategy to implement.
Dr. Pinkston, we are now hearing that the THAAD missile system is operational. From what we know about Kim Jong-un, will this be a deterrent to him? Is he a rational actor in that sense?
Well, according to the social science definition, I think Kim Jong-un is hyper-rational. You don't rise to the top of the Korean Workers' Party and remain in that position as dictator of North Korea unless you are a hyper-rational, calculated person. So people look at this in a vacuum, but we have to think about all of the threats that North Korea poses. So if North Korea tries to push their political objectives and goals, they will use different instruments at their disposal, whether it's cyber attacks or other military means, rhetoric, propaganda, missiles, submarines. There are a number of possibilities. And those who are responsible for upholding the Korean War armistice, and the United States has a bilateral mutual defense treaty with South Korea. So to fulfill those commitments, the senior military commanders need these tools to ensure that they can defeat or dissuade any potential North Korean attacks, including limited missile attacks. So previous commanders, and including General Brooks now, they've all said they need this tool to defend against North Korean threats.
Dr. Daniel Pinkston, as always, thank you for joining us here on BBC World News.